Alrighty then, because the last video that I made showing off old video games that I own was such a big hit, I decided to do another. We're going to look at both Nintendo 64 and PlayStation 1 games. This isn't all my PlayStation 1 games. Some of them are in the other room, and I was too lazy to get them. But we'll talk about them anyways. Boom, let's start out with N64. Super Smash Brothers. Yeah, you gotta have this. My N64 collection is really quite small, but I have the best games. Zelda Ocarina of Time. This one, I remember playing this at friends' houses. I didn't have an N64 as a kid, but I remember playing this at friends' houses. And man, this was like the biggest game I'd ever played. The most imaginative, the most epic. And I love this game. If you don't love this game, then I don't know about you. Super Mario 64. This is one I didn't play all that much at friends' houses or anything. It's one of those ones I need to go back and actually play through. Maybe I should get it for the DS or something like that. Play it that way. There's what is this, a lenticular cover for Legend of Zelda Majora's Mask. A fun one. Definitely a good game, but for a kid, I think it could be kind of hard to play, just in the way that it is. You're constantly having to switch these masks and repeat the days and all of this stuff so that you don't die. Mario Kart 64. See, I have all the necessities, really. And now it's like time to branch out and get some other Nintendo 64 games. If I do, I don't know. We'll see. Oh, of course I have Final Fantasy VIII. Everybody's favorite Final Fantasy game. The YA. The most YA of any Final Fantasy game. Basically just a YA novel made into a video game form. Yeah. There's something about these these PlayStation, especially PlayStation 1, but other consoles had them, like these multiple disc games. Like they just feel bigger because, I mean, it wasn't even enough to contain it on one disc. You have to play multiple discs in order to beat this game. That's epic, man. Here's one that's pretty fun. This is Final Fantasy Origins, which is Final Fantasy 1 and 2, but it's not just straight ports. They're sort of remade a little bit with some updated graphics. It's kind of cool. I often contradict myself when I say things like, "Oh, I'm not that big of a remaster type of person," but I'm not opposed to them. I just rather people still make new things, and it's not like they haven't been making new Final Fantasies, they just haven't been making ones I'm interested in as much. But yeah, that's a good one, man. I need to get the Final Fantasy Chronicles one. I don't think I have that, but I need to get that at some point. Here's a good game that's very underrated. Sequel to Chrono Trigger, Chrono Cross. If you guys have not played this is something you should seek out. Dig out the PlayStation 2. You can get this for pretty cheap. All three of these I think are still kind of cheap. I bought this one for probably, both of these were like $15. This one was new. I bought this new. They were still selling new copies of this, which was kind of crazy, but it is what it is. You know, it's crazy because it was like well after the PlayStation was not being manufactured anymore. But if you haven't played this, give it a shot. If you like the Chrono Trigger, this is a different game, but it's really fun, and the world is really cool, and it's really too bad that these Chrono games from Square haven't really had anything past these two games, honestly, because I think they're really, both of them are really great games, and Chrono Cross definitely underrated. Man, is there any game that is like as simple fun as Tetris. Like, everybody understands the concept of Tetris as puzzle game. Like, you sit down and you just kind of get it. And sometimes they get a little carried away with, oh, I'm gonna make this battle Tetris, or I'm gonna do this, but it's all at the core of it, this simple gameplay that just works. So I have a couple of different Tetris games. Here's one that I bought for no reason at all. I don't know why. I think it was at a Goodwill or something, and I was like, oh, I can't just let this get into the trash pile because no one buys it. I played like 2 seconds of it and realized it was like not good. But maybe I should play that on stream sometime. That'd be fun, right? I don't know what this is, but I don't think it's a PlayStation 1 game. I think it's a PS2 game. So, yep. Madden 08 for PS2. I think a friend gave me this. They were getting rid of all their PlayStation 2 stuff, and instead of giving me a good game, they gave me this one. But it's okay. Thank you. Their heart was in the right place. Man, we talked yesterday about NBA Jam. And by the way, Michael Jordan's not in NBA Jam, but I said he was. I made a video about NBA Jam a long time ago, but I can't find it. It's not on the internet anymore. But in it, I say, Michael Jordan wasn't in the game. I guess he was too expensive to put in it. Blah, blah, blah. Oh, but at least Larry Bird is. Anyways, I digress. These arcade versions, like, basically over-the-top fun of games, were really fun. But as soon as the graphics got to a point like this, where the simulation was the fun part of it, actually being the teams, being able to simulate seasons and do drafts and all that stuff, these arcade games didn't become as popular. It's sort of like the platformer in a way. As soon as graphics became 3D and they were good enough to only be 3D, and just, it's like they abandoned these, which is too bad because these are fun games, man. You'll notice a lot of the games that I have are greatest hits collections. I don't really care about that. It's not a big deal to me. Not that type of collector that, oh, I want this particular case because my collection will be sullied if I get a green case instead of a black one. I just like having these games to play them, or for the novelty of it, like with Beyblade. This next game is a game that I first played on the PC, and I have it for PC. But I also got it for PlayStation here. It's called Expendable. Not one everybody knows about, but this actually, a version of this came with a computer that my parents bought. And so I played that a ton. My whole family played it. My mom, my dad, my brother. Really, it was huge for us. We tried to get as far as we could. There was no save in this. It was like a demo. And there was no save function, so you just got as far as you could possibly get. And but it was still fun. I mean, it's a great game. And when I say a great game, it's one of those ones I have nostalgia for. The controls on this one are they're a little, this is analog control compatible, which is cool, but like the controls are a little weird. It's really a 3D game, a 3D shooter trying to get to it's really trying something as graphics are improving and as things are getting better. And it's a really interesting story. Basically, you have these soldiers who are expendable. Ironic, right? No, they're basically human beings that are created for war, and then they're zapped with a little bit of intelligence, and then they go off to fight, and that's kind of the premise. They go and they fight these aliens in this war. But yeah, it's an interesting game. If you can get it on like GOG.com on PC, and it's actually not that expensive. It's because nobody knows about it, obviously. So why would they try to charge a bunch for it? Here's my favorite Final Fantasy game of all time. I also bought this one new. This and Chrono Cross. Yes, fun. This was the last real fantasy one. Everything else is like this weird sci-fi, I don't know, anime freaking aesthetic. And this one was the last one where they sort of just allowed it to be fantasy. It's I don't steampunky. I don't know. The airships automatically make something steampunky because most of these games have airships in them. But really fun. If you guys haven't played this one, I'm sure you can get it somehow. I think it's on phones now. I think most of these old Final Fantasy games are on phones. But again, these multiple disc games, tons of fun. Absolutely tons of fun. And this is my favorite one. Here's a classic. Tomb Raider. Yes, the original Tomb Raider. That is one that is interesting. The graphics in this don't quite hold up to what we'd want now. Sometimes a killer body just isn't enough. Like, man, that's some 90s marketing right there. Like, they didn't care. Politically correct Lara Croft? No. They weren't about that life. They weren't about that politically correct Lara Croft game. You know, that language of the let's not offend anybody. Like, they sold Lara Croft on that she was a girl and she had boobs. But the games were all right, man. The gameplay was good. I remember watching people play this at the time, and then I played this. I think the first time I actually played this game, it was on the N-Gage, the Nokia N-Gage. Anybody remember that? It was a handheld from Nokia. In order to switch the games, you had to take the back off, the back cover of the phone off, basically. Take the battery out, put the game in, put the battery back in, put the cover on. It was like it was a really awkward, and the microphone and ear piece, that you listen from, what do you call that on a phone? I guess just the speaker was on the side of the phone. So basically, instead of like having a flat surface like this, like most phones, right? In order to use it, you put the side of it up to your phone. It looked like a taco, like you had a taco up to your side of your head. But I played they had Lara Croft for that, and the weird part was, instead of it being like the standard size of a screen back then, like, this is basically a Nokia N-Gage, man. I mean, no joke. Like, it's basically the size and shape of, maybe a little bit bigger, of an N64 cartridge. And this is about like the screen was. It wasn't a 4:3 like normal square or like wide screen, or maybe a little bit longer. It was taller than it was wider, and so you didn't see, there wasn't that much screen, so you couldn't see all that much. It was just, oh man, crazy. I don't know what they were thinking. It obviously did not catch on, but I knew somebody that had one. I didn't have one, but I knew someone that did, and that's how I played that game for the first time. Big Race USA. Pinball game. I like pinball games. We have Sonic Spinball. We saw that in the last video, but pinball is just fun. I want to get a pinball machine, like an actual physical one, at some point in my lifetime. That's a goal of mine. Actual one, not like one of these cheap new ones to make. Same with arcade cabinets. Like, I want a real arcade cabinet. I don't want one of these like tiny mini ones that they're selling nowadays. It just doesn't interest me. But I digress. Computer pinball, video game pinball, still fun. This was a cheap game I found at a rummage sale, as they're sometimes called, and it was kind of cool. I was glad to find a video game there, because usually they didn't have video game stuff at this particular rummage sale that I would go. It was held at a church every year, and I'd go and I'd get a bunch of movies and books and sometimes some records and just like random stuff. Like, I think that the chair I'm sitting in is from that sale, I believe, possibly. I don't know. I think it is. Yes. Atari Anniversary Edition. A lot of these are cracked. These old jewel cases, these old CD cases, they get cracked pretty easily, and especially when you're buying them used well after the fact, they come that way. See, here's the games that come with it. Asteroids Deluxe, Battlezone, Black Widow, Centipede, Gravitar, Missile Command, Pong, Space Duel, Super Breakout, Tempest, and Warlords. Each Atari title is faithfully reproduced down to the last detail, and each one is just as easy and fun to play. It's like having your very own arcade. That was a good thing as games started to get better. you could have arcade ports, but then there was no reason to have arcades because kind of the point of the arcade was that obviously it was like fun, you could go there and play different games, but the graphics were way better than what you could have on the home consoles at the time. Like, you think about the Neo Geo, and basically the Neo Geo Home was such a huge cartridge that it was basically the size of the actual Neo Geo boards, because that's how they had to have the information and everything in order to have those types of graphics. But then you got to this era, PlayStation, especially PlayStation 2, where you could just have ports of a lot of the older arcade games, and then now it doesn't really matter. There's no arcades anyways, and the games coming out of it, I doubt they're putting those games in arcades anyways. Boom, I told you I had more than one Tetris game. This is Tetris Plus. Again, jewel case busted. This is a fun one. This is like, it's one of those battle ones basically, but sort of like Dr. Mario or something like that, or where you can go against each other and then you're trying to build in it and then like they die. But it's fun. It's like fun modes, and I think that's kind of cool. There isn't as many Tetris games, like puzzle games in general, that come out. Like, I don't think they get releases most of the time, physical releases, you know. All right, whatever, I'm not gonna worry about it. $2, definitely worth it. All right, fit. Fun game. I love Tetris games, and this was a good entry. But back to puzzles. It's kind of sad that a lot of these smaller games, basically you're just going to get a digital release. And so therefore it's basically worthless. You're just leasing it, and eventually there's no resale value. It's not a good thing. And now that digital has happened, things like GameStop are going away, and the option for resold games is going to go away soon anyways, I think. It would be my guess that, I don't know, with the way physical media is getting phased out, I wouldn't be surprised if in a few console generations, if not the next one, there is no disc drive. And people are already accepting it with lower priced Xboxes, and it's I don't know, I'm just, it's not my thing. It's not my thing. But anyways, here's Gran Turismo 2. This one, I haven't actually played this one. I bought this, I think I got it at a Goodwill for like a couple bucks. And you know what's crazy to me is this is another one with multiple discs, 2 discs in this case. Like, basically, I guess that's for the campaign mode or something, basically. Like, it's such a graphically intense game with these cars. They actually look pretty good. All things considered, those models look pretty good. That's the thing about car games, is they really are an example of how to push the graphics of a game, and often they look the best. Like, I remember I got Project Gotham Racing on Xbox 360, one of the first games I got, and it was so good looking that I don't think there was a game that surpassed it in terms of its graphics, and it was one of the early games I got. Like, even, you know, maybe in Project Gotham Racing 4 or something, but they really push the graphics with racing games a lot of the time. Yeah, fun. So those are my Nintendo 64 and PlayStation, original PlayStation games, and this random PlayStation 2 game that was in the pile. I don't think I'll ever play this. Maybe I will. Maybe I will. Friend gave it to me. I should play games that friends gave to me, right? So let's see. Checklist done. Went through N64 games, went through PlayStation games, corrected myself on NBA Jam so I don't feel like a tool. But again, College Slam, still sitting right here. Man, I need to play this. It's an NBA Jam game with the college teams, dude. You guys didn't know about this. It's pretty cool. And look at that cover, man. That's 90s right there. Basketball with teeth, biting the rim, and epic and hardcore. Might as well spell college with a K. Am I right? Am I right?